And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. A big-time oil price hike is set to take effect on Tuesday. Industry players have set a 2 peso and 30 centavos per liter increase on diesel, 1 peso and 40 centavos on gasoline, and a 2 peso hike per liter on kerosene. The oil price increase was due to the increase in prices of crude oil in the world market in reaction to the decision of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries to slash their production from January to June of this year. But in the case of the Philippines, the Department of Energy, or DOE, says that prices of fuel products may increase further due to the implementation of the second tranche of excise taxes on oil. According to the DOE, 469 gasoline stations from a total of 8,600 across the country already imposed a new fuel excise tax.
Binibigyan ng pagkakataon magpaliwanag yung nagbebenta kung ano yung mga rason kung ba't sila nagtaas ng presyo.
Meanwhile, Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno welcomes the move of House Majority Floor Leader Rolando Andaya Jr. to file a petition for mandamus to compel the Department of Budget and Management to release funds for the fourth tranche of salary increase for government workers. Diokno says they are now preparing their comment to the petition, stressing that the DBM has no legal basis to implement salary increase if the proposed 2019 national budget would not be passed by Congress.
No, we welcome it so that this issue will be resolved once and for all.
Andaya argued in his petition that the government can still raise the wages of its workers by splicing 40 billion pesos from the 75 billion pesos miscellaneous personnel benefits fund. He also called on Diokno not to use the non-passage of the 2019 budget proposal as a reason for withholding the salary adjustment.
Huwag niyang gagawing dahilan ang reenacted budget. Dahil meron naman mga alituntunin na nasa papaloob sa kanyang departamento na para ibigay ito. Nakakahiya naman kung maiisipin natin na yung bayad nga sa 100 bilyong utang natin, na babayaran natin kahit walang bagong budget. Ito pa kayang katiting lang.
In other news, Malacañang supports an investigation into the alleged passport data breach that hit the Department of Foreign Affairs, saying that the incident is a serious and grave matter. Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. revealed last week that a formerly outsourced passport maker took the data after its contract with the government was terminated. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says the National Privacy Commission has been directed to probe the incident and determine if provisions of the Data Privacy Act of 2012 have been violated. Panelo also says the DFA should first conduct an internal probe to validate the claims amid calls for a legislative inquiry.
Well, the president, of course, doesn't want these birth certificates being lost. Even without him saying it, hindi dapat mangyari. But hindi pa nga natin alam exactly kung nandyan o wala. Kasi may nagsasabi nandyan. Nagsasabing wala. Ano ba talaga? So let's wait.
The DFA has proposed to require passport applicants to bring their birth certificates following the incident. However, Malacañang disagreed as it finds the solution cumbersome to those affected.
Well, definitely, we will not allow any delay on the issues of passports or putting stringent requirements that will burden our people into getting their passport.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, is set to start printing the ballots for the May 13, 2019 elections on January 22nd. Though the poll body has not yet released an official list of candidates for the midterm polls, the COMELEC says the National Printing Office is ready for the ballot printing next week. Poll officials inspected the NPO earlier to make sure all printing machines are ready for the job. According to the COMELEC Printing Committee, they expect the printing to continue until April 30, 2019. The poll body targets to print 1 million ballots a day in preparation for the election.
When the printing process hits its peak, we produce something like 2 to 3 million ballots per day. But that's not the thing. That's not what dictates the pace of printing. It's actually the verification that happens afterwards. Each sheet is verified through a VCM. So there is 100% verification of all the ballots. All the ballots will have to pass through a VCM and be readable by the VCM. This is done using people and machines.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police have placed 19 cities and municipalities across the country under the Commission on Elections watch list areas. Based on the list released by the PNP, these areas include Sudipen and Balawan towns in La Union, Jones in Isabela, Lemery, Batangas, Balud, Masbate, Daraga, Albay, Cagayan de Oro, Linatawan and Tipo-Tipo in Basilan, Marawi City, and several towns in Maguindanao. The PNP says an area is placed under COMELEC watch in the event of intense political rivalry or severe violence related to the conduct of the election. The PNP plans to augment its forces on the ground to closely monitor any untoward incident in line with the upcoming polls. President Rodrigo Duterte is set to join a street rally on Friday to express his support for the proposed BANGSAMORO organic law. According to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, the president will fly to Cotabato City for the mass action expected to be held in 2 days before the scheduled plebiscite for the BOL in the areas of Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, Isabela City in Basilan, and in Cotabato City.
Si Presidente sa January 18 pupunta sa Cotabato para sa big BOL rally. The day before dapat pupunta siya din sa Hulo, pero dahil sa meron siyang importanteng gagawin dito, hindi makapunta. Pero pupunta kami. Ako, si Secretary Anyo, Secretary Galvez, will go to Hulo para kumbinsihin na namin tong si Sakur. Matigas ang ulo ni Sakur. Oh. But we can convince him maybe. So, para lumambot yung puso niya, para tanggapin na yung BOL.
Malacañang is also confident that the president's presence in the rally will convince the public to support the passage of the said measure.
The voice of the president is always a powerful influence on whatever matter he gives his voice into.
And for the news abroad, here's Pauline Ompico live from Tokyo, Japan. Pauline, good evening.
Good evening, William. Indonesian officials say they have found the black box voice recorder from a Lion Air flight that crashed off the coast of Jakarta in October. All 189 people on board died when flight JT610 fell into the sea shortly after taking off for the short journey to Pangkal Pinang. The pilot had asked air traffic control for permission to turn back to the airport, but then contact was lost. Investigators say the plane had encountered technical problems. The main body of the aircraft has never been found. Authorities are still searching for the possible motive of a tragic kidnapping case in Wisconsin, USA. Beverly Sison tells us why.
Wisconsin police have charged a 21-year-old man with murdering a 13-year-old girl's parents last October so he could abduct her. Jake Thomas Patterson was arrested on 2 counts of first-degree homicide and 1 count of kidnapping, police said on Friday. Jamie Claus was found alive by the suspect's neighbors on Thursday.
My agency received a 911 call about 4:30 yesterday afternoon from an individual who was out walking her dog. Said she was approached by a young female claiming to be Jamie Claus. This lady immediately went to a nearby house, notified that neighbor of the claim, and this neighbor called 911, and my deputies responded en masse.
She had escaped on foot from a remote home where she had been held against her will after her parents' murder. Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald said the girl had not connected with Patterson on social media and the suspect had no contact with anyone else in the family.
Jamie was taken against her will and escaped from a residence at which she was being held and found help. We also do not believe at this time that the suspect had any contact with the family. We do believe Jamie was the only target. I can tell you that the subject planned his actions and took many proactive steps to hide his identity from law enforcement and the general public.
The lawman noted police information was limited, and Jamie is still being interviewed, but she has been medically cleared and released from hospital. Jamie has been reunited with her aunt, said officials on Friday, and she is doing as well as circumstances allow. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
A Polish mayor is fighting for his life after being stabbed at a charity event. Meanwhile, Italian former leftist guerrilla Cesare Battisti was extradited to Italy after being arrested in Bolivia. Kath Dumaraos will tell us why.
In Brazil, officials have confirmed that an Italian former communist militant captured in Bolivia is on a plane back to Rome. Cesare Battisti, 64, is wanted for 4 murders in Italy during the 1970s, which he denies committing. He was extradited after being found in Santa Cruz de la Sierra in an international police operation. After escaping from prison in Italy, Battisti lived for years in Brazil, but vanished after an arrest warrant was issued last month. In Venezuela, the head of Venezuela's opposition-controlled parliament was briefly detained days after saying he was ready to assume the country's presidency. Juan Guaido was traveling to a rally when intelligence agents intercepted his car north of the capital, Caracas. The agents have been sacked over the irregular procedure, the information minister says. President Nicolas Maduro was sworn in for a second 6-year term on Thursday. The opposition calls him illegitimate, and Mr. Guaido said on Friday he was ready to assume the Venezuelan presidency on an interim basis. And in Poland, the mayor of the Polish city of Gdańsk has been seriously injured after being stabbed on stage at the country's biggest charity event, officials say. Paweł Adamowicz, 53, was taken to a hospital where he is in a critical condition after 5 hours of surgery. The 27-year-old suspect, who has a criminal record, has been detained. He shouted that he had been wrongfully imprisoned under the previous government of the party, which had supported Adamowicz's re-election. Adamowicz has been mayor of Gdańsk since 1998. In the 2018 regional election, he won 65% of votes. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Pauline Ompico, live from Tokyo, Japan. Top tennisers Rafael Nadal and Angelique Kerber ease through the second round of the Australian Open after their respective matches. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic is pushing for a higher percentage of earnings to be distributed to players at the world's biggest tennis tournaments. Victor Cosare tells us why.
Former champion Rafael Nadal showed no signs of discomfort from his thigh strain as he sailed through to the second round of the Australian Open with a 6-4, 6-3, 7-5 win over local hope James Duckworth on Monday. The second-seeded Spaniard had pulled out of the Brisbane warm-up with a thigh strain to raise doubt about his campaign, but he allayed those fears on Rod Laver Arena against an error-prone opponent. The Spaniard, who will next meet the winner of Australian Matthew Ebden's contest with John Leonard Struff of Germany, broke Duckworth 6 times while surrendering his serve twice and brought an end to the match with a brilliant cross-court winner. Elsewhere, 9th seed John Isner was stunned by his American compatriot Rayleigh Opelka, who secured a 7-6, 7-6, 6-7, 7-6 victory in a tight encounter between the towering pair that looked set to go the distance. Opelka, ranked 102nd in the world, moved into the second round of a Grand Slam for the first time. In the women's draw, title contender Angelique Kerber started her campaign with a straightforward 6-2, 6-2 victory against Slovenia's Polona Hercog. The 2016 Australian Open winner will play Brazilian qualifier Beatriz Haddad Maia in the second round in a battle between two left-handed counterpunchers. Meanwhile, Novak Djokovic said on Sunday that he is satisfied with how the Grand Slams are reacting to a player-led push for bigger paychecks, but that is not about increasing his own bank balance. Djokovic, the president of the ATP Players Council, has led a push for a higher percentage of earnings generated at the world's biggest tennis tournaments be distributed to players.
We are focused on distribution, equal distribution, and we are focused more on the earlier rounds and last rounds of qualifications and first several rounds of Grand Slams, and getting more job opportunities and increasing also the number of tennis players that can live out of the sport.
First round losers in the main draw for both men and women will receive 75,000 Australian dollars, representing a 25% increase on the previous year. Djokovic and rival Roger Federer are both in search of a record 7th Australian Open title, and with it, a winner's purse of 4.1 million Australian dollars. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue.
An actual competition of robots battling at each other makes a splash in Shanghai, China. Here's Amiel Pascual to tell us why.
The 2019 King of Bots KOB Robot Combat Competition kicked off in East China's Shanghai municipality on Saturday, showcasing cutting-edge robotics technology. The competition was held in a fully enclosed field wrapped with bulletproof walls that were 2.54 centimeters thick. For the competition, two robots faced each other off against other in the arena. Sparks flew as sharp clattering sounds echoed through the room.
If the robot failed to move more than 2 meters within the 10-second countdown by the referee, then most likely the robot will be disqualified. If neither robot was knocked out within 3 minutes, the referee will count the points and select a winner based on the scores.
The robot's builders are placed high hopes in their masterpieces, all of them giving their best with eyes fixed on the top prize.
360 degrees. It has no blind spot. The robot was completed by me and my father. It took us about a month.
Robot combat competitions were introduced to China in 2017, and the KOB will be held in around 20 cities in the country this year. Amiel Pascual, UNTV News and Rescue, Taiwan.
And those are the reasons behind the news, January 14, 2019. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.